So I wanted to get back to the topic of co-creation. We have talked about crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, but co-creation is a little bit larger concept that would include social funding or crowdfunding or crowdsourcing. So the notion of co-creation may include the participatory process with cooperation. We have mainly talked about us, individuals, but I do believe there is a space for companies to play a role as well. So this is the part of the topics that I wanted to share with you today. So Martin has given me a topic, a homework, to share with you what I think the future of, or future for, co-creation is going to be. And I wanted to start introducing what is going on with a Danish company called Lego. If you Google Lego, you would find a lot of works like these, be it locomotive or castle. And these works are the works of amateurs. They would make it, take a photograph of it, and post it up. And they do it not because they want to make money, they do it because they've done it. They've wanted to share with the rest of the world. So if you Google, you'll find tons of these. You could also find a very oriental theme of their works. And they would vary a lot. There are even motorized version of Lego. So that could be very sci-fi too. And there are also users who are making living out of creating these Lego works. I wanted to introduce Nathan Sawaya. He's a friend of mine who used to work as an attorney in Wall Street. But he found out that he has begun to earn as much as he was earning as a lawyer. And then one day, his girlfriend said, why don't you just focus into this? So he began to pursue his career as a Lego artist. One of work like this would cost he can sell it for 60,000 USD. And if he sell 10 of them, well, that's enough to make a living. And I myself was very similar to what Nathan was. 15 years ago when I started CUUSOO.com, I was a entrepreneur who just had an idea but didn't know what to do with an idea. I've made a prototype. I did not know where to bring, so I decided to open up a platform or website where I and my friends can put prototypes on the website, because I knew me alone would not create enough buzz. I needed people to draw attention on my work as well. Maybe my attention that I created could draw attention to my friends' attention as well. So it was sort of collaborative approach so that we can share the eyeballs. And in 1997, I started this, and I wanted to have a cell phone of my kind. And I couldn't find anywhere. But I knew there were many people like me who wanted to have a cell phone with orange color. Now you can find it easily. But 15 years ago, if you recall, all of the cell phones were thick and black and gray, and I was fed up with the design that manufacturer used to provide us. So what I did was I started to draw orange version of cell phone on computer graphics, started to print out, and went out on the street and started to distribute, saying, if you like to have these customized version of cell phone, please send me an email. And as soon as I'm finding out 200 people who are willing to buy these, I went to a publisher and said, listen, in 5 days I've gotten this much of response. Can you give me 2 pages every month so I could have more response? So those are the time when Facebook didn't exist. So I had to do it in a very analog way. But the chief and editor of this magazine gave me 2 pages every month, and soon it started to grow big. not many people were using emails at that time, so I had to receive all the inquiry by fax. I had to type all these scribbly, dirty letters into an order form, and I created the list of people who are willing to buy this product that doesn't exist. Went to Panasonic, they didn't listen to us, so I had to go to a smaller manufacturer who would, customize a cell phone, and it worked. So I decided to go on. I quit my job and started CUUSOO as a main business. And the concept is very, very simple. You just, instead of getting funding, at that time, a lawyer suggested that if I gather funding for the product doesn't exist, maybe the authority may put handcuff on me because I'm just gathering money for things that don't exist. So only thing that I could have done was get pre-orders or intent to buy things. So what I was doing was intent gathering. So gather intent, accumulate, and then show it to manufacturer and get a promise that if they make money, they will give us some royalties or discount to the original intent, showers or the future customers. And created a very simple system that would aggregate orders, accumulate, and send it to manufacturers. And it worked very well. And I thought at that time that if I keep doing this for maybe 10 years, I could, develop this into something much bigger. So I made a small concept movie at that time. And let's suppose this building is a world, interconnected by internet. And each square would represent each household. Here, she is really upset because her husband does not know how to cook, and she gets to do all the job. So now she's dreaming of having a robot that does a cooking for them. But she knows it's impossible. She has heard about all the technologies, but she knows it's gonna cost a lot. Probably at most they can only pay $500 US. So it stays as a dream, but she has an intent that if someone makes it, she would buy it. Next door, there's a young lady. She's engaged. She's gonna get married very soon. But she doesn't know how to cook. And she wanted to get a robot that would teach her how to cook. Next door, there's a college student. He's dating girlfriend, but he has found out his pair of pants would not fit him. Or maybe it is himself that doesn't fit on the pair of the pants. So he wished for the diet control robot. So all of these small dreams or wishes are unrealistic at the moment. But what if a system would aggregate all these wishes one by one, and register in the same format and let that robot or the system do the same thing over and over and over and over for a long time until it gets to the critical mass, which is the break-even point for manufacturer to create it. So 15 years ago, I thought any technology that is not produced could use this kind of mechanism and meet the future market. So we started to produce, ideas on the website. And this was our first computers. Long before iMac came with LCD, we started to put the computer behind. And this was a portable lamp made by Muji. This one didn't make through because there was some regulatory body that didn't allow us to do that. This one also didn't make it, but we knew we saved money but not making these. So we were trying out things, the concept on the market, and persuading manufacturers, what if? Some of them worked, some of them didn't work, but for good reason didn't work. Not enough market. So even if manufacturer would have made it, they would have made a loss. So for us, it's not a credibility wasted. So I thought this is a very optimal way to persuade manufacturer to help you produce things that they want. But also, at the same time, it's a very optimal way for manufacturer to find out what are the things that users might want to have in the future. So over the years, we started to work with famous designers little by little and started to build track records one by one, little by little, and manufacturer began to like it. So first Muji started to support us, then Daikin started to support us, Mitsubishi started to support us, Morinaga started to support us in Japan. So big companies were beginning to understand how they can use internet and work with users. And one of the biggest success was the project with Muji. So this one has been on the market for about 15 years, and every year it's a very stable income. They make about 40 million USD, and out of that, she received 150,000 USD as a royalty every year, flat. And we calculate the net present value of this cash flow would accumulate up until like $500,000. So if she wanted to, she can sell this with this amount of money because it's been generating cash for over a decade. And again, the mechanism behind is very, very simple. You have a user interface that would allow users to put intent on the prototype. On the other end, you have analytics. So you know how much of the future market there exists. And as Nicholas used to work for us in Japan. He decided to pursue his own career, but at that time, we together went for Lego. And Lego was an excellent case for us because unlike other products, user could make their prototypes easily. It's a modular system that sits on the house. So this was the first case we tried in Japan. Next case, we tried in Japan but sold it to the global market. And this one we tried on a global market for global audience. And the difference between this one and the third one was that this one, the user who started this did not have a Facebook account, did not have a Twitter account, so he did the way I used to do. So he printed out a paper, a flyer, went to the street and started to use analog way. But he eventually got 1,000 people who were willing to pay $50. So just like Hana has done, but in a much primitive way, he has made it. But it took him 2 years to make this. Then this one, it took about, I think 60 days. I'll show the number later on. But he had a Twitter account and Facebook account in Japan. And Facebook in Japan is not that popular. So, but it was much faster. But this one was submitted by people who had both Twitter account and Facebook account, and they spoke English. So here you can see, this is what happens when users do not have Facebook account and Twitter account. On this axis, you have a time. So week 1 till week 60. On the vertical axis, you have numbers of users. In Japan, the threshold was 1,000 users pre-orders. In global market, we set it at 10,000, of course, because the world is bigger than Japan. So we set a different set. But it took 60 weeks for users who only have worked in analog way. If you have a Facebook and Twitter account, it only takes about 11 weeks. But if you use English, and if all of them have Twitter account and Facebook account, it happens in a matter of 48 hours. So we were shocked. And actually, our server went down for 6 times within these 48 hours. So our system division was in panic. They couldn't go to sleep because it kept dropping. We have too much overload. And if you look, how users increased and how project increased, it was like this. And also, the demography of users changed a lot. Before, for 15 years, we were only limited in Japan for Japanese language and Japanese users. Now, 50% of users come from US and the rest from Europe. And age differ a lot too. Now we have more audience between 20s and 40s. And this comment we got from a senior executive from Lego. I'm just going to read it out. So 90% of our Legos, 32 million customers just want to consume. So these people are coffee drinkers. Remember what Hannah said, the bottom of the mountain, 90%. 10% want to make their own stuff. The skiers, right? And even if only 0.01% is good enough to make something others want to buy, the climbers, that is still more than 3,000 people. And at the moment, Lego has only 150 designers. And these 3,000 people are not even paid. But they do represent different needs, and they do promote their ideas, the rest of the world. Think about how much of the monetary value these promotion that user generates have to the corporation. Think about, what other source of ideas or interest that manufacturer could tap into. The implication to corporations is enormous. It's not only about us. It's not only about entrepreneurs and consumers. It's all about, how corporation can use this phenomenon and use it in favor of them. And if they begin to understand the implication of this, I think there's no reason why they should not begin to endorse these concepts and put into the core corporate activities. Being in Asia, where the locus of manufacturing is shifting to here, I think China, Taipei, will have a lot of benefit by adapting these ideas. Hopefully Japan too, but idea is that you still have to find a way to have access to users. And the way to do it is what you have learned earlier today. So here I wanted to give a food for thought to think about how does future for co-creation will look. And after this, we're going to have, I think, a panel discussion. And you'll hear more about in-depth insight on what we have experienced, what we think about it, so that you can also participate either as an individual or as a corporate member. So this is it for now from myself. Thank you very much.
I'm sure there are some questions for Kohei as well. Yes. Great.
Hi, Kohei. How do you think the maker movement and things like 3D printing will affect your CUUSOO's business model?
I'm sorry, I missed that first. How do I think about makers movement?
The maker movement, being able to get a laser cutter or a 3D printer for under 50 Gs US. How do you think that will affect the business model of CUUSOO or something similar?
So makers movement is a term coined by Chris Anderson, if I'm
That-
wrong.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So it's about phenomenon that we are witnessing today, that more and more people are making stuff, even from big cities. So many people predict that there are going to be smaller manufacturer in big cities. There are even concepts that you can do desktop fabrication. And this movement, they think it's going to prevail, right? So this is makers movement in my interpretation. So I think it's going to come. But today, 3D printer and lasers are not good enough. So I think it's going to influence a lot, but it's going to take at least 10, 20 years. Also, there are a lot of, I don't know how to say it, artisan's knowledge, how to assemble things, how to test and try so that manufacturer could be reliable. There are issues of product liability, intellectual properties that makers movement has not encountered yet. As a professional manufacturer, there are a lot of issues that they have overcome over the years. They are professional. So a mature manufacturer could get close, but not to the level that they have approached. So I think in the future, there are going to be two different sets. Makers movement making the prototypes that has some fun, that has some small group of users who would use it, and then larger manufacturer who would acquire these small businesses. So I would see makers movement as a great move to enhance the entrepreneurship in the hardware area. So I would encourage this makers movement to prevail, but also I would encourage a lot of capitalists and large corporations to work and pay attention to what's going on with the makers. That's my answer.
So we have time for one more question.
Hi, I think the last slide on Lego is actually very impactful. I'm just wondering whether the same concept can be applied to the delivery of services, or whether a similar mechanism can be created for that.
What do you think?
I think so.
I'm with you.
Great. Thank you very much, Kohei.